I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll review the draft minutes of our previous meeting. Member Curran, do you have anything to note about the minutes from our November meeting?
Yeah, I have one change on page 2, second paragraph, or second sentence. At the end of the sentence, it says, which is not. We should insert a to, which is not too close, which is not close to the maximum, is what it should read. So after close, we should insert a to. On the third page, the 11th line down, it should read, Curran stated that there would be no environmental impact, so insert B after would. That's it.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve the draft minutes subject to those two additions. Would a member second?
Second.
Thank you, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Approved subject with the two corrections. We'll review the agenda as posted on the town website, noting that the first application under old business, Brunswick Solar Facility at Shippey Lane, and the Sickaway Solar Facility at Brunswick Road. Both these proposed locations are in a R95 zoning district. They're proposing commercial solar, which is not allowed in the R25 zoning district, and they will not be in attendance tonight. The applicants are waiting some more information per their engineers. But we do have one new business, and that's 126 Brick Church Road, Tamarack Solar LLC.
Actually, so on the agenda, this is, we'll note that on the agenda that was posted, there's also, so the board is aware, a new commercial solar project that has come in to the planning board.
Yes.
It's for the Gilead Lutheran Church, 308. Part of that application will be a request for an area variance.
Right.
And so that will eventually make it onto your agenda, but there's still a lot of technical information being reviewed by the planning board.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, what was the address of this?
126 Brick Church Road,
All right, thank you.
Tamarack Solar. Yeah. And I believe you're requesting an extension to the
Yes.
approvals that the zoning board has already granted.
Correct.
All right, so I'll ask you to kind of give us a presentation, please.
Okay, thank you. So we have received two variances for this particular project, one related to a setback and the other to utility equipment at the interconnection point right off of Brick Church Road. And we have requested an extension and received that extension for the site plan and special use permit from the planning board. And we're asking that the zoning board grant a similar extension so that it matches the extension we've received for the planning board granted bits. The reason for this is the supply chain. I'm sure everyone is hearing this ad nauseum, but it's been pretty tough recently. We're going out to finance. We're starting that process in January for this and a few other projects. And that process could likely take 4 to 6 months. And we just don't know what's going on in the supply chain. We've got, at the federal and state level, we've got changes in programs and module tariffs coming in and out. And the equipment is extremely difficult to get these days. So we're asking that we get the extensions so that we can give our construction crews, give the financiers more time, more runway to work with so that they're not hemmed in the last minute. And it helps us because it gives us a little more certainty with that flexibility. So we try and do that up front, even though it seems like a long time away. The time goes pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
And I guess, so I believe that in my opinion, that the record is pretty complete and comprehensive of the actions that the zoning board took to come about with their decisions to grant the two variances on the two requested variances being the setback and the utility poles. So I'm not sure if we need to kind of reiterate what the board did to come to that decisions, like, we did evaluate the standard elements and, we brought up questions. So I guess, Andy, how in-depth do we need to go now to present the case to grant the proposed
Right,
extension?
So what I've reviewed with the applicant and what I'll review with the board is in the current Brunswick zoning law, with the site plan and special use permit review and approval procedures, the language that is used for those sections do talk about an expiration of the special use permit approval after 1 year, unless it's acted upon in general, okay? Let me get to this in a moment.
Take your time, yeah.
And so the language used there in the code, and I'll read to you the special use permit language as an example. A special use permit shall expire if the use or uses cease for more than 1 year for any reason, if the applicant fails to obtain the necessary building permits, fails to comply with the conditions of the special use permit, or if the time limit imposed on certain special uses expires without approval. That's one section. And then the next section, which is very similar to the appeal, the variances, except for one point, which I'll go over. Expiration of special use permit. A special use permit shall be deemed to expire to authorize only the particular use or uses expressly specified in the resolution approving the special use, and shall expire if the use permitted by the special use permit activity ceases for more than 12 consecutive months, if the applicant fails to obtain the necessary building permits for the approval within 12 months of the site plan approval, or if the time limit expires without renewal, okay? So they use the term, the Brunswick zoning law uses the term without renewal for site plan and special use permit. The planning board, upon application of the applicant, did renew that approval for the additional year.
Mhm.
If we go to the section of the zoning law that talks about variances, it uses the following language: termination or lapse of variance. Any variance that is not exercised within 1 year of the date it is issued shall lapse without further hearing by the zoning board of appeals. Okay? It does use different language. Here, for variances, it uses the term hearing. Okay? That term has legal significance. So later in the code, when the zoning law talks about hearing on appeal, which this would be, this is the section that requires the public hearing. That's what's meant by a further hearing. So this is a new issue for the board, the request to extend the variance. But looking at that language, it's certainly my opinion that because there's a difference between the term renewal and the term hearing, and on the special use permit and site plan, which, by the way, do require public hearings, they use the term simply renewal, and the board had the jurisdiction to renew it. But with variances, the code talks about further hearing by the ZBA. So I think conservatively, you don't need to recreate the record or even review the record. But in my opinion, to make the record compliant with the zoning law, the request should itself be subject to a public hearing. And it should be noticed, and I would presume it could be noticed for your January meeting. That notice would indicate there's no change to the project. This is simply to extend the approval for an additional year to allow for, construction activities to be completed. And that's the extent of it. In my opinion, the application materials submitted are complete. And again, I think it benefits the applicant in terms of the record on the legality
Sure.
of the variance extension, as well as protects this board on extending it, that the board should consider accepting the request for the extension, hold the public hearing in January and enact.
Okay.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And we have no issue with that whatsoever. In fact, we appreciate the thoroughness. So
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
all good things come to those who wait.
So it'll be the 24th.
24th?
Yeah.
Okay.
The 17th would be the normal third Monday of the month, but that is Martin Luther King Day. So we will be closed then, and we will have the meeting on the 24th.
Okay. Do I need to do anything further or will you notice it? I don't need to do anything on my end.
Right,
Just
we'll
come
do
to the
the
meeting.
We're all here.
All right. Yeah, cool. Thanks. In 2022. Wow. That's
Right.
crazy. All right. Anything further for me?
I didn't have any questions.
I'm good. Great. Thank you. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you. Have a good night. Merry Christmas.
Yes.
We're in the process there. Yeah.
I remember somebody came forward and told us, oh my gosh. Somebody else, maybe it was a competitor.
What was that section you were looking at?
Duesenberry was
So-
sold as well, and it took them about a year.
For the
and a half
appeal?
or so to
Or
get
strike
back
after the
where they could
variance?
get them started.
Go to section
Yeah.
160. It should be dash 128,
Okay. general
sub D,
rules.
termination or lapse of variance.
Okay. It's page 129. Thank you.
And now that we review this, I'm not sure why there's a difference on
Yeah, right.
extending the variance, which uses the term hearing, and for site plan, the special use permit, which just says unless renewed. But it does. So
We have the ability to change that.
we do. It should be noted.
Yes, it could be.
Well, I guess if it was very controversial, like this I don't believe will be, but.
No. And I agree. What I said to Gillian was, when you go out to financing, the approvals will be reviewed. And if at some point the project is transferred in title, which it probably will be,
Right,
someone will review during due diligence the record on the approvals. And if someone happens upon this and says, well, wait a minute, your variances weren't extended, are they still in place? It creates a record problem for them.
Mhm.
And I agree with you. I don't think this is controversial. If it were, and it'd be a problem with the second public hearing, well, we could deal with it. But Chuck, I agree with you. That language should get reviewed and probably.
Streamline, so they're both the same.
Yeah, I think so. After all, the project has been subject of a public hearing already.
Right.
So it's not as if it's avoiding the public hearing
Right.
process. It's just a renewal. That could get cleaned up.
So what do you think you're going to change it to?
Same language as the earlier one. It simply says unless renewed
Okay,
by the zoning board.
so this is probably going to change.
Yeah, as an example, just note, go back to page 82. You'll see, there I was reading from letter J.
Yeah.
See the last line of J,
Mhm.
or if its time limit expires without renewal.
Without renewal.
And that's the same language for a site plan too, so.
Okay,
And that's going to be the same language for zoning, for variances.
And for that one, go to page 78. This is 160, 61. And again, the last line is, or if its time limit expires without renewal.
without renewal.
So for those two sections, the language was consistent, but it's not consistent with extending the variance.
So when you're doing your review of these, that's probably something that you're gonna make those three, the language in the three of them consistent.
Correct. The next meeting internally to discuss that's been scheduled, we need to raise that
Mhm.
and
Yep.
just clean that up.
Yep.
It seems like excess procedure to me, but want to make sure that the record's complete on this.
I don't have a problem with it because I've already done the mailing list for that public hearing.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just a matter of sending it over again.
That's right.
You're ready.
When's our next meeting?
January
It'll be the
24th.
24th because the 17th is Martin Luther King Day.
We have a holiday?
First holiday of 22.
I used to know all those holidays when I worked.
Are there any other new business items that might come up?
We spoke about the Brick Church solar, that proposal.
We got that application, but it's not. You said there's more stuff. They have a lot more stuff they have to do.
In the planning board,
Right, right. I
Well,
watched
yes.
the meeting the other night. They had a lot of questions.
and the gentleman from Borrego was in quarantine, so he
Right.
was not here, so.
Right.
All right, there are no other items of new business. Entertain a motion to
Well,
adjourn. Oh, sorry.
before you do that, if you could formally, by motion, set your January meeting for the 24th as opposed to the 17th because of the holiday.
All right, yep, we will officially do that. Zoning board will declare that January 24th will be the new date of our January meeting instead of the 17th where there is a holiday. I made a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Great. All right.
You have to close the meeting.
Yeah, would you like, so I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
I'll second it.
Thank you for seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and I have some questions. I was wondering, like, can you speak to some of